So beautiful. Such a touching song. And of course, we give John Lennon credit for singing it. But it was written by Yoko Ono. And she wrote it because it was her reflection on what happened to her family and friends in Japan when we invaded. So it carries more with it because that carries her heart and the souls of a lot of people that were lost at that time. But they came back, and they came back proud. And their culture is one of nurturing. It's about nurturing imagination, creativity, compassion, and honoring each other. And so in that, she's honoring us. And it's Father's Day, and it's summer solstice. And someone said to me, well, this is really going to be a long day, isn't it? It sure is. But I found it very interesting to take a look at why we have a Father's Day. Sonora Smart Dodd, who's of Spokane, Washington, is credited with creating Father's Day. And the reason she did it came to her in 1909 when she was listening to a sermon on Mother's Day. So the U.S. President Calvin Coolidge gave his public support to Father's Day, and that was in 1924. But listen to this. The legislation for making it legal was not signed until 1972 by U.S. President Richard Nixon. So thank you, President Nixon. Because in our spirituality, we really don't separate gender-wise. We just know that the feminine and the masculine is in all of us. But it was appropriate for Sonora to know that making a special day for mothers needed to have a special day for fathers, too. And look at this wonderful collection that we have of father photos. And look at the time that it spans. There's an interesting tradition that I learned about. This is a photo of my father and I. So you may not be able to see it clearly, but I'll point out to you that this is so special because he's wearing his Sunday bib overalls. I was raised on a farm. Dad had 3 pairs of overalls. The one he wore every day, the one that was in the wash, and the one that was for Sunday. Life was very simple, but it was so rich. There were traditions I had with my father. Now, this one might sound a little bit unique, but he immigrated from the Netherlands. And the Netherlands has what I would call some cultural traditions that I really am glad I experienced. My mom would always shave my dad. And I noticed that the ritual was when they would visit with each other. It's very personal. Well, then when I got old enough, that ritual became mine. And I would shave my dad. I'd take the brush out, I'd whip up the shaving cream in the cup, put it on him, and then I'd say, hold still, Dad, and shave him. But it was such an intimate time. It was a time just with him. And we would talk about all kinds of things. And I just wanted to give you just a moment. If you would, I'm going to take 15 seconds. In your minds, identify 3 gratitudes for your fathers. The father figures, I had several in my life, and I bless them. But I had to think about a time in my community when I visited a small church, and it was in Green Valley County This luscious, beautiful place. And I had an Uncle Ben and an Aunt Mary that were buried there. So I would go to the service once in a while. And in this church, old white church, we still had an organ, a pump organ. So there was one Sunday that, of course, just like we have to do, there needs to be a time for vacation. So on this particular day, the organist was always accompanied by a person that would run the bellows to keep the air flowing in order to keep it loud. And the pianist organist remembered that last time that person did that, he didn't pump enough air to really get it out there. So she decided, and it was Eloise, she decided that what she would do to make sure it was done properly was to write a little note and give it to him. So she put the note dutifully by the organ, right? Thinking that it would be read by that person, but indeed it ended up on the podium instead. So, if I were the minister that day, I don't know how I'd handle this message. Because it said, just keep blowing until I give you the signal to stop. So if you want me to stop, give me a signal, because I'm going to keep blowing. So in summer solstice, it reminds us that the earth really, some describe it as commitment issues. I like this. Because it boldly stretches toward the light, reaching the sun's northernmost point, only to pause and suddenly say, actually, never mind, I'll just head south again. But there's a wisdom in that. Growth isn't always a straight line for us. And our fathers couldn't always give us that straight line either. Because sometimes, even the most radiant journey has to include a graceful turn. And that's what some of us may have in our gratitudes realized that Father helped us make a graceful turn in life. Now, Unity's theme for the month is imagination, hence the song. But at the same time, the message for our Unity community is, as you heard, in regard to our affirmation about our health and our prosperity and our well-being. The thing is, we need imagination in order to get some of those, right? If we can't use our minds to think about what we want to do, the art of the possible, if we can't imagine, if we couldn't have been children with imaginations, it'd be hard to get there, wouldn't it? I remember when I was a little girl, on the farm we had a junkyard. And so in that junkyard there was an old stove. There were a bunch of buckets, 5-gallon buckets. There were some boards. And there were some old pots and pans. And my imagination, my creativity said, oh, this is like a playhouse. So I nicely set up a counter with the boards. I set up on the old rusty stove my cooking utensils, and I would cook mud and leaves and water over and over. Then I'd go to my counter and I'd say, aren't these wonderful? Do you like the menu today? And I'm sure if anyone would listen to me, they go, oh, that girl's really out there. But my imagination, I imagined people. I could picture people sitting there. It was a truck driver, or it was a guy from the grain elevator, or it was one of the senior citizens that my mom and I would visit. They were people that I imagined, and they're the people I love to associate with and to serve. And it was another example for me. I love to serve. I will serve in any way I can, whether it's food or spiritually, for it nourishes me too. So imagination is the inner vision which Spirit reveals possibilities not yet visible to the physical eye. It invites us to look beyond present conditions. That's how we get to health. And see the deeper pattern of wholeness already seeking that expression of us. Every one of us here, I heard us laughing, I heard us talking. Our expressions were radiating this morning. Our pride in our fathers that we share with this community we love. And as we consciously direct this spiritual faculty toward love, peace, healing, and abundance, we become willing participants in the creative movement of the divine mind. What we hold in sacred vision begins to shape how we think, what we choose, how we act, opening the way for new possibilities to emerge in our lives and in the world. And our Unity leadership expressed this as an important theme this whole month. This is where Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, says, there are 12 gates which open into this wonderful Garden of Eden. These gates are the 12 faculties of mind. They are faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, law, zeal, renunciation, and life. And did you happen to notice that all of these are mentioned in your Unity vision and mission? Everything that Charles Fillmore taught and delivered to us from the very inception of Unity is exactly what this church embodies. Matthew Fox says that celebration is important for us to free our imagination. And it's the only weapon for our species that has. That is why we are celebrating today. It's why we are going to have celebration songs, a celebration experience. It's a summer solstice. It's Father's Day. It's our way of saying aloha to everyone, bringing the flowers and the joy. The lays are about friendship and love and welcoming. That's what we are, every bit of our lives. There's a quote that also came from Jim Blake. Now, he's the CEO of Unity. And he says, imagination is not make-believe, it's make-real. Your mind is a sacred instrument of creation. Dream vividly, act boldly, and watch your inner visions shape your outer world. It's yours. It's ours. Neville Goddard in his book said, our imagination is our connection to God. That's why we sang the song today. That's why we embrace those words today. For us to imagine that there's no hell. For us to imagine that all the people are living today together, just like we are demonstrating here. To imagine all of that is what brings us joy, and we use our imagination every day to imagine the possibilities of tomorrow. And we will always want to remember why and how. How does this fit into our Unity 5 principles? Well, let me share that with you. I selected the two that are so closely tied to it of the 5. Our thoughts have creative power to influence events and determine our experiences. Our principle. The second one is our call to action. The action of using our imaginations. Be creative. Be the light. Prayer and meditation connect and align us to our own spiritual nature within God. So, you've all got your lays. I want you to just know a little bit more about those lays because they're an introduction to our next music, which will be followed by meditation. So the lays are a symbol of aloha. The lays represent love, affection, and the spirit of aloha in the Hawaiian culture. They are a celebration of honor. And that's why I thought they're so appropriate today. We honor our fathers. We honor each other's. And they're made of God's greatest creations. They're made of flowers and blossoms and twigs. And each lei is a creativity of a person who took God's gifts and assembled them. They are the gift of friendship. They're often that gesture of friendship and goodwill. And that's what we're all about today. And their spiritual significance. Some leis are believed to carry spiritual meanings and blessings for the wearer. And that's what I hope you are each sharing with each other today, are your blessings. For you are all of and in the divine. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome our musicians back because it's time for us to have our song of celebration.
Sing loud. Sing loud. Me.
Tiny flowers in Hawaii make me feel happy, make me feel fine. Tiny flowers make me warm all over with the feeling that I'm gonna love you to the end of time. So here's to the golden moon, and here's to the silver sea, and mostly here's a toast to you and me. Tiny bubbles in the wine make me happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles make me feel warm all over with the feeling that I'm gonna love you to the end of time. Haehi, Kiwale, Ahaule, Akiwale, Ahale, Aiwawoki, E Anite Nueke Awa, Iwole. So here's to the golden moon, and here's to the silver sea, and mostly here's a toast to you and me. Tiny bubbles in the wine make me feel happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles make me warm all over with the feeling that I'm gonna love you to the end of time. In the feeling that I'm gonna love you to the end of time. Make me feel that I'm gonna love you to the end of time.
May the effervescence of bubbles and joy be yours today and always. And with this, Steve is going to dim the lights for us, and we will go into our meditation so that we can softly, softly feel and affirm, each of us, the truth of the divine in us. So just put your hands gently on your laps. Let that chair support you. Gently close your eyes and let the softness of this wonderful music and the energy that's radiating in this room bless you and relax you into total peace and love. And as we so gently return to the room, gently recognizing the light that surrounds us, and carry on with this beautiful service